live. Welcome to this morning. We've just been posed a question, which I think is very important that we deal with before we get on with the real show, and that is that Ripley would like to know the price of a rhinoceros. Chat GPT tells me that you can expect to pay between $30,000 and $100,000. My question, of course, would be, why would you want to know the price of a rhinoceros, Ripley?
Well, Rick, you're the farm expert, the resident farm expert from the team. So if there was anyone who would know the cost of a large, I don't even know if it's a bovine animal. They've got a weird foot situation going on. But, you know, if there was anyone, who would know, it would be you. And so when this topic came up earlier on a team call, we had postulated that, the new Hublot to save the rhinos was in fact more expensive than buying your own rhino.
Right, I see.
But then someone in the comments had made a comment about, it being far more than that based on the price of rhino horn. But I really feel like a lot of those horn prices are sensationalized in the same way when you hear that, the DEA seized X amount of drugs, and you're like, I don't know who you're selling those to, but that's not the dollar value of that in any real. So I was wondering, is this the situation? So I asked you if you knew what the price of a rhino was. You don't have any on the farm, I assume.
I don't have any on the farm. I hear, though, that much like Chrono 24, it's now a dynamic pricing model that's been introduced for rhinos in Scotland.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a street price, Ripley.
It's an EU problem. You're obviously living more of a free market, whereby you can pay. Over here, the price is controlled by the European Union.
There's a VAT on rhinos, is what Rick's trying to say.
VAT on rhinos. There's the value-added tax. There we go. And the thing is, they're separated from their horns in advance, so that the horn and the rhino are now, at two different price levels. You can buy your rhino with or without a horn, depending on what it is you're actually after. We're not sounding very ecological here. We appear to be encouraging.
Do we have to have one of those "don't try this at home" disclaimers about the whole buy the rhinoceros thing?
Yeah, don't try this at home. Don't try this anywhere. Okay, it's illegal, immoral, and it'll make you fat. So don't entertain that. So yeah,
that's the way to stop people from eating rhinoceros. Is tell them it'll make them obese. There you go.
Obese, because it works so well. Is there any other watch that sponsors something that you would be better just giving the money to the charity rather than buying the watch?
Don't you mean like every watch that supports charity?
It's actually a bit of a daft question now that I think about it.
No, I think it should be about what the watch is, and then the charity. If it's not something that hurts to explain to someone, then you did good. If it's even remotely beneficial and is easy to explain, then like the Norcane's got the Hakuna Makaipa Foundation. It's a preserve.
Imagine this scenario where you're in a social context and you're trying to justify the purchase of your watch. All else fails, but you're like, oh, but wait a minute, buying this watch went to a good purpose. Like, when is that going to save you from an otherwise ill-advised acquisition?
There is an amazing watch journalistic experience when you see all the watch journalists being forced by Oris or someone to pick up waste on a local beach, because that's what they've decided to support. So all the journalists have to traipse down and join in their galoshes, collecting up waste from the sea line. What's the worst thing a watch brand has ever made you do in order to get that story, Ripley?
Oh, I was going to say, it has nothing to do with writing about watches. It'd be servicing watches, and we can just go ahead and leave that right there.
Ariel, what's the worst journalistic experience you've ever had going to cover the release of a watch?
Oh boy, this is about to sound very prima donna-ish.
Excellent.
I have to say, I would not pick up trash. And it's not that I'm against picking up trash. I do it at my house constantly every day.
That's called having kids.
Yeah, it's more the idea that I believe very firmly that watches are a luxury product, and the experience around them needs to be luxurious. And there's something about sacrificing for my fellow man, which I think is great, but not high-end feeling. So when brands try to combine this idea of you need to pay for the privilege of humbling yourself in front of other humans, I'm like, no. I would say that, some very long travel delays and stuff like that, just to, to be in the presence of a timepiece, literally traveling, around the world, where they could have just sent it to me. Boy, what am I trying to? What's been so bad? Oh, karaoke, forced karaoke. That's probably
forced
up there in
karaoke.
the most traumatic episodes. Yeah.
Well, yeah, good stuff. Name and shame the brand.
Well, forced karaoke. I'll leave it to the imagination.
It might be a slightly Eastern-based band with views of Mount Fuji.
It's popular in some parts of the world more so than others.
Okay, right, good stuff. Right, well, let's get on with our show. So let's clap in and do the real deal. So 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Greetings and welcome to this week's aBlogtoWatch Weekly. I am back from my secret my secret. What was it? Secret that I was doing, Ripley?
I don't know, something on undisclosed land.
Undisclosed land. That's what it was. No, but I was, me, all the animals. We went for a sauna, steam room, the full boona. So for return from that, I am slightly worse for wear, and I don't know if it's possible to get jet lagged in a train, but that's what it feels like. But I'm back, however, which means the watch content from last week will go a complete nosedive. Well done to you guys last week hosting the show, but you talked about far too many watches for my liking. So we will seek to resolve that issue today. David is not here. He may appear, he may not, but we'll be joined by others later on Hit Miss Maybe. If you would like to contribute to the show or find out about what we talk about before we press record on the full show that you listen to now, you can go to aBlogtoWatch Weekly Live, whereby you can see the live recording and hear all the bits we end up editing out, mainly for legal reasons, sometimes for moral reasons, but there we go. Right, let's make a wee start. Let's find out what you've been up to first, gentlemen. Ripley, last week, what's been entertaining you in the watch world?
Ariel and I went to a Zenith event with Bindi. They have a collaboration watch. It's a cool piece. It has a rainbow bezel. I have a new hat, so the latest in fashion. Thank you, Zenith.
I thought you were having to give up, taking on. Thought we had an intervention here, Ripley. I thought we had an agreement, no more hats.
No. I'll stop when I run out. So that was cool. It's a steel piece, and it uses that. It's like the Defy skeleton, but it's based on the chronograph, so it's a very high frequency, three-handed movement. But yeah, that's the most watch related thing I've done in the last several days.
Cool. Ariel,
I was also at that event with Ripley. We got a little dosage of watch culture. We had some people from out of town there, so it was nice to see that. I was amazed that it was Bindi's first collaboration. There's just been so many watch brand and Bindi things that we've done. It's funny that's their first collaboration when other retailers in Los Angeles have had actually a lot. But that was pretty cool. Yeah, we've been doing a lot of talking behind the scenes to brands trying to figure out what's going on. I mean, a lot of them are, they are buckled down for this economic wildness around the world. So it's interesting to see what brands are seeing through it and understanding that this has always been a long-term game, and the ones that are absolutely freaking out, it's a lot of therapy time with the corporate brands. Boy, what a time to be a luxury brand owned by a corporate parent. Interesting stuff. So watch brands, if you have a corporate parent, the aBlogtoWatch team is open there for therapy and chatting and hugs and whatever it is you may need.
If you need a hug, Ariel's offering free hugs to watch brands.
Myself, the other team members can decide how they want to show support and affection, but that's up to you guys out there.
Ripley will show it by relieving you of a hat.
He will take your hats.
I'll hug some corporate brands.
The brands seem to want to get rid of their swag. They don't seem to hoard it. They almost are appreciative. Ripley, you want our stuff? Please take 18.
Take it all. Good stuff. Right, well, let's get started with some more chat from Ariel. Ariel's thoughts: watch consumers don't really care who invented things first. Now, I'm going to roll this into some other issues because you were talking about books last week. There's been one or two books that have come out recently that, shall we say, well, let's just say it was Perezcope has tried to debunk in terms of watch brands claiming who invented things first, but more of that shortly. Ariel, did people ever care, or was it just brands that made you think we cared because they had no better ideas?
I think that consumers for a while in the 20th century were excited by the constant innovation on timepieces. There's depending on the era, there was always something new in watches. In the teens and 20s, it was wristwatches. In the 30s and 40s, they started to add complications. In the 50s and 60s, they started to get much more durable and add more convenience features. And by the 70s, there was this entirely new technology that was taking over. The 80s and 90s had their own thing. So there's just always something new. Consumers were always excited about dropping something in favor of something else. By the 1990s and 2000s, traditional watchmaking, mechanical watchmaking became more artistic and emotional, but it was complemented by, watches that were doing things for the first time. Yet I've never heard consumers be like, this is the one that did it first. It's the only one for me. I mean, I guess there's a few people out there, but at the end of the day, if you know about watches, you want certain features, you want certain looks, but you don't really care who delivers it to you. And I think this is more brands using what they have. Most people working at the brand started from before they were there. They don't really know why it was started or what to say about it. All they have is, I got my history. I can talk about what we did first and what we used to be popular for. But many brands struggle when it comes to explaining to people why to buy them today. I mean, frankly, sometimes the value proposition is, hey, our thing looks like that other thing you want, but is lower priced. And like, that's why you're popular with consumers, but their brand will never say it. What do they say? We've been making copies of popular watches for 175 years. I mean, that's essentially what they got going for them. So I just think it's interesting, this disconnect between what the brands are proud of sometimes and why consumers buy them. I guess it's okay to have a verbal disconnect, but sometimes brands should sit down and seriously question themselves. Why are we popular with consumers? Or not popular?
Or not popular. Ripley, have you ever been tempted by one watch over another because of that watch brand's claimed firstness to something?
No, it's not really about who does it first. It's really about who does it better. There's lots of things that are the first effort was absolutely atrocious. It was hazardous. It caught fire. It imploded. Being the first, it's a cool accolade. It's a cool thing to put on the resume, and for when you still kind of hold the title in it, well done. It's kind of nice to be like, we're the first and we're still the leader in it. But I think about all of the things that technically were the first and were so much worse than someone who looked at what the first person did, said, that was pretty good, that's a great concept, but clearly it didn't work out right. Let me go refine it and make it better. And so I think it really just is a bit more of a meritocracy than we did it first and therefore you should think ours is in some way superior or worth owning. It's a nice accolade, but I don't think anyone would actually buy a watch simply because it was the first to do something. They might buy the watch because it was the first one of its kind or something, but that's a totally different issue.
So Jean-Claude Biver's first different and unique motto is marketing. Bear in mind it's Jean-Claude Biver, so it's mostly marketing.
Yeah, but Biver always made sure to have unique stuff on the market. You may not like all the stuff he did, but he completely understood not resting on your laurels. I mean, his whole thing at Hublot was the art of fusion, which, correct me if I'm wrong, meant trying new materials, new things, new ideas, and splicing it in what you're already have done. I think Ripley hit the nail on the head when he said it's not the first that did it; it's the best that did it. We recognize and give credibility to brands that have sort of a history of firsts. that is Bulliva's slogan, actually. Sort of Breitling's slogan for the 140th anniversary.
Sort of Rolex's slogan, sort of Zenith's slogan, sort of Tag Heuer's slogan.
But I think it becomes difficult for them to justify, like, well, why do business with me today? So I think there's a healthy skepticism we need to place on an industry that just keeps reminding people what they were so great at yesterday. I mean, it really, goes down to, tell me what you're doing for me today. Are you offering a good price? Are you offering good quality? Are you innovative or novel in some area? I think it's a very legitimate question consumers are asking brands. What are you doing for me today better than someone else? Because let's be honest, it's a buyer's market and it's very competitive out there, and we can't buy all the watches we like.
And where does this lead to? And I'll just share this screen from a friend of the show, Perezcope. So there's been a book out recently. I think you touched on it last week.
He tore this one apart.
Yes, and
that graphic is unfortunate.
I see what he's doing there. I like the Soul cigar, real seedy character there. That Pinocchio.
So when does this go wrong that brands claim firstness? I've not delved into this, but Jose is a well-known debunker, and I think he's got a fairly perfect record on it, debunking the Rolex's claim for the first waterproof watch, etc., etc., etc.
I say not quite the entire point of the book. Almost a footnote. Like, I get it. A bunch of people claim to have the first this, but going back to the 20s, what waterproof or water resistant meant is highly up for interpretation. Like, survives for a few minutes, a few feet underwater with, like, what was the Omega one? It was like the gasket was leather. Like, how water resistant can that be?
It was rhinoceros leather, and if you don't understand that joke, you need to tune into the live recording.
Boy, that's an encouragement to listen, right?
Rhinoceros jokes before we press record.
You just intrigued them all, Rick.
Yes,
I
just lead the trail of crumbs for folk to go to our YouTube channel.
So Jose's probably right. Rolex has probably embellished something here or there, but at the end of the day, the story is we've been trying to make watches water resistant since the 1920s. And this is more or less what we've been doing, with some corresponding history of what others were doing in the diving space. That's what the book is about. I have always taken these claims with the utmost grain of salt. I mean, with the utmost grain of salt. And ultimately, does your Rolex Submariner today, is it worth any more because 100 years ago, Rolex was the first to do something? Not at all.
Yeah. So when does it go wrong? When have brands, when do they trip up by relying on this? Omega
consumers.
And
it's look, when consumers use brands as own marketing material in lieu of actual peer-reviewed academics, that's where people go wrong. It's the brand's own validated book. I have that book. It has the Rolex logo on it. They're not going to say, well, 1920 says asterisk. Somebody says this. The other person says this. Rolex is like, no, we've been saying this for long enough. It's fine. No one's going to sue us. And they're right. But as a consumer, if you care, be an academic about it. Read some other people say. There's a couple of other competing claims. I mean, water-resistant watches came within that time. A couple of companies did it well. Rolex arguably was able to mass produce it in a way that no one else was. They did something first. I'm impressed enough with them. Let's not treat these brand marketing catalogs as academic reference material.
Well, and on top of that, like, there's a lot of ways of making a watch water resistant, and the way that pretty much everyone uses in the most simple of fashions when they want to make a watch very water resistant is largely based on the platform that Rolex did, with the screw down crown, screw down case back, not some elaborate type of other things, some system of gaskets. It isn't the super compressor that proliferated, it is Rolex's design, and a lot of watches couldn't have a screw down crown because of a patent originally. So that's why you don't see it on the Submariner's very earliest competitors. But nowadays, you look at any dive watch, with the exception of a few ones with like internal bezels or something, and they all have screw down crowns. So I think we can nitpick about certain things or some liberties with the truth of, like, maybe they weren't the first to do it, but they ended up buying that company who first made the cases that did for that other brand. You know what I mean? So there's a whole lot of other things, but I think, Ariel's point's very salient where it's, that wasn't really the point of the book. It's not going to have any unconcrete facts or wishy-washy details, but that's to get like a true revisionist history of dive watches. You're not going to look to something that one of the brands themselves produced.
So what's the future? Are watch brands going to learn that real innovation is better than just pointing to something in the past, or is it just a shorthand that's always going to exist because marketing's lazy?
Well, if you don't have anything new to talk about, you're going to talk about what you did in the past, but it's like that guy who's talking about, oh man, back in the high school game, I was the man, dude. We won state. And it's like, all right, you're like 45. Like that was a minute ago. You were a child technically at that time. What have you done lately? And if the answer isn't now, like I'm Tom Brady, that story doesn't have the same significance. So, I think those stories are important. They're part of a brand's history, but they really become 10 times more powerful when it's not something they did a half century ago. It's something that very much relates to what they're still doing today. And it's like, hey, we were the first at it, and we're still being the first in many respects to kind of push these boundaries.
So who are the brands who are still truly motivated by innovation rather than motivated by the ease of looking back? Is it the big brands, or has all that been beaten out of them by corporate shareholders?
At least Casio's halfway there.
Casio, yeah, electronics. In fact, you sent a wee snippet of an article, Ariel, through the week, which we can have a little look at if I can find it, which was about a crowdfunding an additional, was it a change of sensor? I'll try and share the screen just now.
Oh, the Casio, the F9, yeah, there we go.
The module.
Watch Pro.
Yeah, this thing's very cool.
Ripley and I were geeking out about this.
This is a crowdfunding attempt. What's it? It's basically upgrading the module in an F91W so that it can do all sorts of other funky stuff.
Yeah. So basically, they take it's, I guess it's the controller. So it's the screen plus the internal hardware. And you buy your own Casio F91W, which I think has a retail price of $20. Yeah. You unscrew it, you just remove the innards, you replace it with this one, and now you have what looks like an F91 with like a bunch more features, including a much louder buzzer. It's got certain connectivity things. It's got accelerometer, a light sensor. You can program your own stuff. You can get a bunch of stuff. I think all in, it's still under $100. And I love that there's this community out there, because there's an electronics, it's sort of related to the hacking community right now, where they're using all this available infrastructure out there, manufacturing in Asia especially, to create this whole weird universe of stuff. And I love the hacking community, and it's so interesting to see them a little bit more formally get into watches. I mean, the first Nixie watch was basically the hacking community, being like, hey, let's figure out how to make a wristwatch out of this. The first smartwatches essentially were. I remember speaking to the founder of the original Pebble watch, which is really just sort of like an attempt to hack, to hack something, and make a hackable gadget like that. So I think there's going to be more stuff like this. I get particularly excited about these things. I think what's funny about it is it's decidedly not luxury, but the idea of having an F91 on my wrist that does a bunch more stuff covertly, I don't know, it's kind of neat to me.
It's like the fully gold G-Shock that looks like the non-real gold plated.
This is like the horological equivalent of the guy who gets like the late 90s Honda Civic and then just gives it like 800 horsepower. It's like it looks like the absolute, ubiquitous crapper, but then it's got more features than, a high level G-Shock. If you dig through it, what this thing can do, it's really impressive that they've managed to engineer it and using kind of the parameter of the F91W, where it only has 3 buttons. You don't even get 4 buttons like a G-Shock.
See, I was contemplating this and wondering, I've got a Panerai on. Yeah, if I was worried about it and things are doing, maybe somebody should be like building a module. I could just drop the back out of it and put a quartz movement in it, and I can just sit it to the side. Like if somebody, you know, bought loads of old cases of knackered watches and just started putting quartz movements in what looked like a luxury watch, I'm wondering how much I would actually care sometimes that the watch on my wrist was the real deal in terms of what it looked like and its history, where it came from, but had, as you say, just been modded, and it had been modded from being a mechanical watch to being an electronic watch, in the same way that you would take a car, keep the shell, and soup up the engine to something that actually is reliable, works regularly, does other things, you know?
This reminds me of, I think it was the Daytona, maybe it was a President. It was this, I don't remember what watchmaker did this years ago, but they just put a tourbillon on it. So they just hacked, they just modded a Rolex to make it a tourbillon.
And
this has been done for a long time.
Frank Mueller took a two-tone Datejust and put a perpetual calendar in it. I believe Jay-Z owns that watch.
Okay, but there you go. That's something like that.
Yeah, like a proper hack.
This has been going on for years. Then the Seiko community has been, you know, having watches modified for probably 2 decades now. I just think the funny thing is that Rick wants a little bit less Panerai in his Panerai.
So he just wants the case. He's like, the case is cool. The case is cool, but I don't know about these OP movements.
Could this be like an Eco Drive? This would be way more convenient.
Yeah, solar Panerai. I don't know.
Were they going to call it Solar Tech?
So yeah, they'll call it something like vaguely proprietary
Solar
sounding,
Tech trademark.
Vaguely nonsense sounding. Anyway, let's look at this watch, because this actually, you know, when you do this as long as we've been doing this, I don't know from 1 week to the next whether we've already spoken about this watch. I don't think we have spoken about this review, but this is the Sinn 903 ST2 Aviation Chronograph with slide rule bezel, which, if we're talking about who did it first versus who's doing it the best, or who else is doing the same thing, this watch has a story all of its own in terms of, well, it's basically a Breitling Navitimer, because it actually is basically a Breitling Navitimer, because of the whole history of Sinn digging Breitling out of a hole in exchange for the rights to produce this watch. It's probably a bit more of a complicated story than that, but that'll do for this morning.
It's more complicated than that, as I understand. Yeah.
But this is the epitome of what we've just been speaking about. This is like, we didn't do this first, but we are putting it forward, saying we were doing this really well. Ariel, you reviewed it. Branding apart,
this was a great watch. I mean, I've been familiar with the previous generation 903, which kind of looked like a Navitimer, but didn't have the correct turning bezel system. It had an internal rotating bezel, so it kind of looked like this, but didn't function the same way. Now Sinn has been able to engineer a proper water-resistant case with a bezel that turns just like the Breitling Navitimer, where you turn it on the outside and the inside of it moves, and it's got that right kind of. It doesn't click; it's a smooth motion, but it's got enough. It doesn't have any play, meaning it's harder to turn. A little bit more legible than your standard, I guess, Breitling Navitimer, because of the loom, which is applied. Actual physical blocks of aluminum that are, I think, machined or formed as opposed to a paint, which I think has always been the downside of this. This is, really one of the busiest styles you could imagine. And just reading it, also because there's sort of the inner dial for the time looks small, the hands always look short, even though proportionally they're fine. But I like this. It's as weird and quirky as this is, it ends up being handsome. So this is one of those tool watches which we forgive for not using any of the features just because it looks good. This Sinn version of it is like, I don't know, half the price or something like that of the Breitling version. I don't know if Breitling's is really worth double the price. Breitling obviously is going to have a lot more options, but for this sort of 41 millimeter wide size in steel, does everything that you'd want it to do. Chronograph automatic, on a strap, well under $4,000. For me, that's really a great deal here. So it does, yes, it's sort of an homage, but it's about as good of an homage in a lot of ways as you could imagine. There is that sort of shared history where Sinn did, purchase some stuff from Breitling in the 80s. So it's kind of a cool, quirky thing that, again, I think actually, ironically enough, fills a particular niche.
Ripley, the Sinn or the Breitling, money no object. Do you feel the brand lifts the Breitling to more than its parts, which is effectively what the Sinn is?
Well, I don't. Does the Sinn doesn't have the BO1, right? It's got like probably a standard like value.
Solida, I think.
Yeah. So it then comes down to, are you really gonna basically pay? I think a Navitimer is like 9,000 and change. An extra $5,000 for the name and a more prestigious movement. I mean, money no object. Sure, I'll take the Breitling. It's the brand that made the design. But if I was spending my own money and just wanted this watch, I'd get the Sinn. I think it does certain things better than the Breitling, because Sinn is really kind of more of a tool manufacturer, and Breitling's now very much a luxury brand. But if you really kind of break it down to, that's a lot of money to pay for a BO1 movement. That's like, you can go buy 2 of these and then still have some money left over. So, and I think the story is a little bit more interesting as well with the Sinn. You see tons and tons of people who have a Navitimer. They have no idea what the watch even is. It's just like the most famous Breitling. But I think the story between Sinn and Breitling and the Navitimer is very interesting. And so if someone sees it on your wrist and you can get to tell them that whole saga, I think, that's kind of a plus as well for at least a watch nerd like myself.
Good. Right. Well, let's return to the Serengeti. For those that tuned into the show earlier on the live stream, let's talk about the watch that launched 1,000 rhinoceroses. The Hublot Spirit of Big Band Tourbillon Sorai watch. Ripley Sellers, you got to review the press release, not yet the actual watch, unless you've been to the local zoo and are giving them out to the rhino keepers. Tell us about this Hublot.
Well, Sorai stands for Save Our Rhinos India and Asia, and it's a conservation organization, not a nonprofit, that aims to save the rhinos of, as the name suggests, Africa and India. So,
do you feel if you were like an Australian rhino or a European rhino, you'd be offended?
Think you have them. I if there's a Scottish rhino, Rick,
Scottish rhino.
Yeah, I'm not aware of it, but yeah, as far as I know, they really are kind of in Africa and Asia, largely India type of thing. So, or maybe that's where they're most endangered. Anyway, save our rhinos, Africa and India. This is now the 4th watch that Hublot has done with Sorai. The person who started Sorai is a former professional cricket player and Hublot ambassador, so that kind of all makes sense. The first
Kevin Peterson, of course. Yes, I wondered why he was appearing on my news feeds on Instagram. Right, that makes sense. Okay.
As an American, I have no idea how cricket is played. I've tried. I've watched. Nope. No idea. But so this is the 4th one. The first one was kind of all tan. The second one was largely green. The one from last year was gray and had colors kind of like a red and purple thing inspired by the African sunset. This is now the 4th, but why it's significant is it's the first one that wasn't just a Big Bang Unico chronograph. This one uses the Spirit of Big Bang Tourbillon 5-day movement. So it's naturally the most expensive Sorai edition by a significant margin. Gray ceramic case, gray camo strap. You get a little angular rhino at 3 o'clock. There's usually some little angular rhino on other ones, usually within a subdial. Get 2 straps, but it is $110,000 US, which is a pretty heavy price to pay, considering the other ones were very much priced in line with other ceramic Big Bang models. But good looking watch, all things considered.
Yeah, it's quite pretty actually. I'm quite impressed by it. I do feel that the little rhino that's on the dial needs some sort of automation to it. You should be able to. Do you think rhinos gallop? Is that the descriptive term for a rhino moving at high speed, a galloping rhino? But sure. It'd be nice to see it. It'd be nice to see it moving across the dial in some way, shape, or form. And yeah. but it's quite pretty.
Rick, you want it to be more expensive? Like, yeah,
I mean, they could take out the USB functionality from the strap, and that maybe save them a few quid. But there we go. Yeah. Does it make sense when as we discussed earlier, you could probably buy your own Rhino for $110,000 rather than buying the watch and actually save a Rhino?
Well, if you don't have the ability to house said Rhino that you save, it's going to be a really, really difficult purchase to explain to your significant other, family, neighbors, postman, literally anybody. So
Cat.
Yeah, it might be the watch in this instance, despite it being a $110,000 gray ceramic tourbillon, might be the far more practical decision.
Yes,
well,
yes.
The watch is a form of social dispensation. You feel very guilty about your wealth, and you're not going to actually go anywhere to see or do anything about rhinoceroses, but you can stand behind saving animals over people any day. So you really just want a $100,000 watch. You need some excuse as to why you're spending the money on it. The word that comes to mind in relation to the Sorai relationship is collusion. Sorai is not a nonprofit, so that doesn't mean very much of this money has to go to Rhinoceri anything. The person that started Sorai is a person who's been working with Hublot on other watches and starting to understand this little game of wait a minute, we can sell the watch for all this money. Well, that works. There's a lot of money being kicked around here. This is a lot of tapping into this desire for people to do good. There has been a long history of nonprofits that are there to protect some impoverished person or thing in some other parts of the world, marketed towards people in established first world places that don't even think about these things. I mean, make what you will of this, but let's just recognize that in the day, this is a pretty watch with a nice design and a high price tag, and everything else is Disney fantasy.
What do you think would happen if... Go on, Ripley.
Well, I was going to say, it's sort of like a karmatic offset. You know, companies pay a bunch of money to like carbon offset their other polluting production stuff. And, you know, it all just shakes out when during the accounting stage. What if, you know, you have the Jacob & Co. oil oligarch watch, and then you're like, well, because I'm killing the planet, I'm also saving the rhinos. So when you look at the watch box, it's not just an oil oligarch. It is a wide variety of things. He saves rhinos. He just puts a lot of money into causes, and some of them are fossil fuels and some of them are rhinoceroses.
What do you think of the irony of having this in your watch box next to something that's like crocodile leather strap or some other slightly dodgy species sitting next to the nicely...
This hobby provides for fantastic ironies of just the type you're talking about. So that's right. Put your actual rhino strap on your Sorai watch and walk around smiling. See if anybody understands the joke.
Yeah, if you've got your ebony, ivory piano keys sitting in the corner. Yeah, right. Well, we're going to be playing Hit Miss maybe shortly. We're just waiting for the guys to gather. But before we do that, it's just going to be myself and Ariel that are playing this because Ripley wrote the article. But I'm almost getting bored of this segment. I suspect everybody else as well. But
we'll give another Seiko?
Well, we'll give it one last bash just for good old...
it's like every week there's another one.
Just for good times. Guess the price of the Seiko. This time it is the Seiko Presage Cocktail Time Star Bar. Star Bar? That sounds like a confectionery. Star Bar Limited. Is there a reason why Star Bar has to be capitalized?
Oh, yes.
Yes. That's how they that's how they do it. Yeah, they like it that way.
Okay, Star Bar Limited Edition SRPK93 and SRE015 watch. These are not pretty watches. But
why are we being smothered by Seiko? We love Seiko, but it's just too much of a good thing. I don't even have time to savor Seiko. I don't understand.
Not only it's like passing down the tree. We're being smothered by Seiko, and now our audience is being smothered by guess the price of the Seiko. It kind of works its way down. The torrent is pouring down. we feel under pressure, so we're now doing this more often, and everybody gets bored of it. It's just what happens. So maybe this will be the last time we ever do it. Who knows?
My
Probably
issue
not.
with these is like so when the Presage it wasn't even a Presage at this point, but when Seiko started doing the cocktail time watches, they were based on like the flavor profile of cocktails, so like dry, whatever. But like then they've had so many cocktail times, like they should have been cut off by the bartender long ago, and some of them are really pretty, but like some of them have gotten, everyone knows what a Negroni is, even if they don't like them or drink them. At least they have a point of reference. Same goes for something like a martini or mojito. But when you get to Star Bar, which is a bar in Tokyo, signature cocktails, when from what I understand, I've never been to Tokyo, never been to Star Bar, but it sounds like they also have like a revolving menu. So the number of people who have tried this cocktail and can look at the watch and be like, oh yeah, this is my daily, it's not, I don't think that's like really a thing. So I do find these to be a little bit, I mean, they put a picture of the drink next to it, which is nice in one of the photos, so at least I know what it looks like. The drink itself is inspired by a view of Tokyo with the lights illuminating the buildings and stuff. But again, never tried the drink, never been to Star Bar, so regardless of how evocative of this drink this watch is, I can't imagine there's that many people who it really resonates with them on a personal level.
I do wonder whether the problem here is that the Seiko designers have spent so long staring out the window, being inspired by the environment around them, that they now can't take it anymore. So they've taken to drink, gone to the bar, but they can't stop being inspired. They're just programmed to be inspired by what they see around them.
I think you're trying to say Seiko employees are trapped inside.
Yeah, they're trying to say, so they're going to slowly descend.
Some have a city view, some have a nature view. They're all trapped.
Exactly. And it's descending into what they're being inspired by. So the first stage is alcoholism. They're being inspired by the alcohol, having been inspired by the nature outside. The question is, like, does it descend to the toilet cubicle? Does it descend to silver spoon? I don't know. I don't know what direction this goes in.
Well, they used to just be inspired by the catalogs. They had all these filing cabinets with old catalogs and marketing. They're like, oh, we used to make this. But that's the thing. Why aren't they letting watch designers leave the office? Let them out a little bit to graze, to see the world a little bit. And, I'm also
is there a danger?
13,000 of these watches? That's some limited edition.
Is there a danger? The danger, of course, is that they bump into a rhinoceros somehow and start being, inspired by wild
No, it's
animals.
good because the watch design is the result every time, apparently.
It just can't resist. It just does not compute.
If they see an unexpected animal in the wild, there's going to be a watch design. I mean, you know it.
If you could drop the entire Seiko design team somewhere in the world to be inspired by that thing, where would you drop them?
Iceland.
Iceland. Seiko design team, busman's holiday to Iceland. Ariel, where in the world are you dropping the Seiko design team?
I was going to say something like the Consumer Electronics Trade Show.
The Apple Watch launch, the next launch of the Apple Watch. I'm wondering if I drop them in Disney or something.
Disney, they've had that license for a while. That's a different Japanese company now.
All right, okay. Well, maybe a whiskey distillery. Scotland, somewhere in Scotland. Loch Ness. Go to Loch Ness, see what you get inspired by.
One of my neighbors actually brought up the Scotland Highlands Breitling. Like he knows. He knows what I do. And
speak to the Scotsman that the designer knew. I'm still not speaking to Sylvan over that.
Well, he knows what I do, and he's like, yeah, I'm thinking about getting a new watch. This is the one I'm getting. And I'm just looking at him going, that is a seriously deep cut for a man who lives in Los Angeles to be like, oh, I want that tweed sweat strap like Breitling diver. Yeah, there you go.
I want this. No true Scotsman. Anyway, right, we've not actually played the game, but quickly, Ariel, how much is this watch? There's two of them. Give us a price range.
Oh gosh, the lady one. Okay, that's not diamonds.
It's just cuts.
Metal.
Faceted crystal. It's faceted crystal on the interior.
Oh, is it the crystal faceted?
Yeah,
right,
they cut it.
Okay.
Worth about $20 more, I suppose. Machine.
So wait, are they the same price? I guess they're different prices. Maybe they're about
They
the
are
same.
different prices. I can exclusively reveal they are different prices.
$800?
For the cheaper one or the more expensive one?
Oh, don't make me break it down so much. Maybe that's
800.
Maybe that's the more expensive one. The smaller one's a ladies' piece, and I guess it's an automatic. But that's a rare thing at Seiko. I don't know. Oh, that is the 2R movement. Oh yeah, that's not expensive. That's not going to be expensive. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just gonna say $800 for the more expensive one. I have no idea what the delta is.
The more expensive one is $650, and the cheaper one is $500.
I was way off. Darn.
Exclusive. 14.
And the women's is more expensive than the men's.
Sorry, it's the women's. I got that the wrong way around. Yes, it's the women's.
Not making it easy for me there, Seiko. Thanks for keeping me on my toes there.
And one is a limited edition of 6,000, the other is a limited edition of 9,000.
So the men's is less.
Mm-hmm. We will have the former game about in fact, that's probably the iteration of this game is how many of a limited edition is this watch? This watch claims to be a limited edition. How many is it limited by? So we'll introduce that as a new round of this, I think, because that's well worth doing. Right, let's break some people into the room to play Hit Miss Maybe. Who do we have coming in? We have Kevin. Good morning, Kevin. How are you? Yeah, Kevin's doing his usual of not actually responding when spoken to. So there we go. Guy, good morning. How are you?
There we go. I'm good, thank you. How are you all?
Not bad. And Matt, good morning. How are you? Or good evening in your case, I think. Or good middle of the night. Oh, Matt is muted, so that's also helping. Matt's now panicking because he can't find the unmute button. There we go. Good day to you, Matt. Kevin, are you there?
I'm here.
Yes, yeah. Kevin, have you been replaced by a robot?
No, but I have been watching a lot of AI. It's amazing what they can do nowadays. They're talking about Zoom calls with AI bodies and stuff. Incredible.
Yeah, I think.
Does that mean you don't need to participate? You just don't need to be there?
100%, Ariel. 100%.
If I could do this without actually having to join in, that would just be perfect. Good stuff. Right, we're going to play. Well, no, we've actually played Guest Price Seiko, so we're going to play Hit Miss Maybe. And while I decide what watches we're going to play Hit Miss Maybe on, because I haven't actually decided yet, we're going to go around the room and see who's where, what they're doing, what they're wearing. So, Ripley, where are you and what are you wearing?
I'm in LA and I'm wearing the new Formex Stratos UTC.
Very nice indeed. Ariel, where are you? What are you wearing?
Also in Los Angeles, I'm wearing the Marathon OSAR D, which sounds like a combination between a fish and a military instrument. This is the G-Star, but with a loom dial. Still not sure why they made it, but it's cool.
Great. Kevin, where are you? What are you wearing?
I'm in Kent Coast and I'm wearing a G-Shock limited edition Blue Note B100 series.
Oh, very nice. Indeed. Guy, let me sync myself to the ether. Where are you? What are you wearing?
I'm on the sunny south coast of the UK today, and I'm wearing what GQ calls the number 3 release of 2024. The Trash Player 1.
Do you really want us to explore the validity of any list that exists in GQ, Guy?
It wasn't paid, I can tell you that much. I thought it would have to be to get on the list.
No. The one thing I know about you guys, you wouldn't have paid for that sort of coverage of that, I am sure of. Good stuff. And Matt, where are you and what are you wearing?
I'm in San Diego, California, and I'm wearing the Christopher Ward Bel Canto tonight.
Very good. An original one or one of the new.
You've got to show it. You got to put your hand up and show it.
So I actually designed a bespoke version that's it's in production right now. This is the test version. So
very nice. I'm in Scotland. I'm wearing a Panerai. I don't have the polo on my desk anymore. Some of you will be more pleased. Me and Matt were in the same polo wavelength. I do still have the Citizen here, which growing to like a bit more. It is a very nice looking dial, but it is still quite chunky even for a panorama wearer. Right, let's start with some hit miss maybe, and we'll start with this because everyone knows how I love a good backstory that's entirely made up and has no evidence whatsoever to support it. So Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso tribute watches, the original watch used to play the game of polo, said no one ever. But what do we think of these releases? We've had quite a few, gentlemen, opinions on this watch in general before we hit miss maybe this range of new releases. Any strong opinions? Nope, a completely unopinion making watch.
It's very maybe.
We're just beyond the point. We're just beyond the point of caring about whatever JLC are up to these days.
I love it. I know we're going to go into it, but I like them. Don't know what's the controversy. They're nice.
I mean, they like basically brought back like the original most classic design. To say like the time only is a familiar style, it's just, you know, there's not much to say. It's the same thing that's been around.
I think we're all afraid to sound stupid because we don't know it's new or not, you know? We're like, is this new to the collection? Is this an example of something they did before? We're all very afraid of GLC pricing at this point. We know that.
Well, I think we're very afraid of saying the name in full instead of saying JLC.
Oh, Jaeger-LeCoultre.
Well, let's do that then. So before we do hit miss, maybe Ripley, give us your best pronunciation of JLC without saying JLC.
Jaeger-LeCoultre.
That's maybe worthy of an edit. Ariel, give us your best effort.
What? Jaeger-LeCoultre.
Kevin.
Jaeger-LeCoultre.
You see, it's a variety already.
Like how it's all different. You're right.
Guy.
I mean, I have a degree in French and used to work in Paris, so I've got a lot on the line here.
You got to nail this. Come on, son.
No pressure.
Jaeger-LeCoultre.
JLC. I'll stick with JLC.
No, Guy. We're on audio edit. Say that again, Guy.
What? I can't get away with just JLC. Jaeger-LeCoultre.
Well, there we go. We've got a little bit of spittle on the screen as a result of that one.
Yeah, the end of the word does not have an abrupt end. It just sort of fizzles out. I don't understand what that is. It just doesn't end.
Matt, go on. Give us your best effort. Drum roll.
I'm gonna go cheat mode. Jaeger.
Jaeger.
Just keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
The LeCoultre family is just so offended right now. You cannot even say our name, sir.
Let's see if we can build on that offence by hit miss maybe this. I mean, maybe it's just a judgment on the entire concept of the Reverso. But on the count of three, is it a hit? Is it the miss? Is it a maybe? 1, 2, 3, go. Miss, hit, maybes. Okay, I mean it's a miss because the story is a myth. I love them, but I will always vote a miss until somebody can prove to me that this watch had anything to do with playing polo. And until that day comes, it's a miss. So I still do love them, and I'd really like to own one. But there we go. Ripley, how did you vote and why?
I mean, I like the simple ones. I think it's a great looking watch when it's done simply. I love the crazy Reversos where that one they did a few years ago that has like 5 dials or whatever.
Yes.
And I seem to like many of the ones in between. There's very little that's, exciting about a Reverso at this point, unless they pull out all the stops and make $1 million watch. But there's also very little that's objectionable. It's like chocolate ice cream. Yeah, it's great. It's classic. It's there. It's not going to be the most exciting one that you reach for when you want something crazy or noteworthy, but at the same time, if I'd be happy to own any one of these watches and I'd wear them often.
Ariel?
At the end of the day, the Reverso is a nice looking watch. Maybe these aren't the ones for me. The sizes and complications and prices just don't excite me at all. But I think at the end of the day, there's a really strong case to be made that everyone should maybe have, one Reverso in their collection. Because again, it is a really handsome watch on men. It's a good looking watch on women. So there's definitely something to it. I think one of the strange things is we all seem to like it, but we're not really sure where we want the brand to go with it today. We're obviously over the polo message. We can't decide what the other face should be. Should it be blank for engravings? Should it have a different complication there? Should it be manually wound, automatic? No one's quite sure what they want the Reverso to do. We don't know what size we want it to be, and we don't know what we want to pay for it, even though we all know we like Reverso. So Jaeger has to figure out all that stuff for us. That's an uphill battle.
So is it the watch that watch geeks like the most but buy the least?
Maybe.
Does it have that title? What other watches are contenders for the title of most liked but least purchased watch? Any other nominations? Because this is got to be right up there. I mean, I just invented this category 13 seconds ago, so I've not given you much time to think about it. Was there any other watch you can think, actually, I obsess over this, but I'm just never going to buy one?
You could possibly suggest the Speedmaster.
Octofinissimo.
A lot of people buy Speedmasters.
Oh, really? Octofinissimo. Yeah. Octofinissimo is a good shout. That's a good shout as well. Watch people geek out about it, but don't actually buy it.
I 100% agree with you on that.
What about D-Trash? People obsess about it, but
no, that's loads of people just buy them. Keep buying them, buying and buying.
Keep buying them, buy them. Good stuff. Kevin, how did you vote?
I voted maybe. To be perfectly honest, I didn't even know there's any difference between this new collection and the previous ones. So I'm totally astounded. They look exactly the same, and I'm going to jump on Ripley's analogy of ice cream. I would say that this is more vanilla than anything else. And I totally agree with Ariel. They need to do more expansive stuff, more fancy stuff. I mean, this Tourbillon is amazing, but of course it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. But until they do that, the wild sort of like pistachio and strawberry ice cream mix in a Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso.
It still flips around. Bland. It's like chocolate. It flips around. It's a little more exotic than vanilla. Like vanilla can be like a Tank Louis or something like that. Like this, at least it turns around for you. Yeah.
Okay. All right. But it's not exciting enough.
Have you gentlemen ever heard of the Ice Cream Wars?
I have, yes.
You have. Ripley will not have heard of the Ice Cream Wars. For those international listeners, have a Google of the Ice Cream Wars. That's what we're seeing happen between Kevin and Ripley quite clearly.
I have something funny to say about the Reverso. And this is an interesting thing related to the design. Someone showed me this one time. It like blew my mind. So if you take the Reverso and you strip out the 3 horizontal stripes at the top of the bottom of the case there, it utterly ruins it. So that small design element right there, those are like that's like a load supporting design element. You take that out, the entire thing collapses. So it's like the only thing you need to destroy that is take that part out. I've seen people Photoshop it, and it looks horrible, boring, disaster. Add those horizontal lines. Oh my god, this is gorgeous.
So do tune in to aBlogtoWatch Weekly live, and later in the week aBlogtoWatch to see the images that go with the recording. If you can't stand to wait till Thursday or Friday for this release, you can search the channel for the live recording anytime after about 7:30 on a Tuesday morning UK time, where you can tune in live and join in the chat. Joseph has voted miss, but yes, I'll see if we can Photoshop that out, because that does sound like a fun way to waste half an hour photoshopping.
Does that mean our aBlogtoWatch watch will have the 3 vertical stripes?
Oh, there you go. There's. I see, Kevin. I am pleased to see that you're the first person, despite me banging on about this for weeks, who's actually started to contribute design suggestions to our work. So I will write this down. We have 3 horizontal stripes.
Imagine the designer reading that, just saying 3 horizontal stripes, having no idea what to do with this information.
So
where are these going?
Well, we've got our birthday complication, live, laugh, love, the Tide button that doesn't do anything, the interchangeable face, and a ruby that glows, as well as some other bits and pieces. Right, Guy, how did you vote on this one?
I gave it a hit. I love the JLC Reverso. I think it's a really gorgeous watch, and it's for people who are too mature to like be in a meeting and take a fidget spinner with them. You got that with you, which is great. And I think it should be. It's funny what everyone's saying. I think this is like a 2-hand watch. It should always just be a 2-hand watch with a plain back. I think like that's the thing with it, and they should keep it like that. Keep it simple.
Yeah, if it's going to be $2,000.
Yeah, but they just need to do some. I think it's like up there with like the Speedmaster as like one of the iconic watches that's ever been designed. It's like up there with the Speedmaster and a Santos. I just don't think they're doing a very good job of marketing it more than anything. I think the watch is great.
Maybe they should market it to play polo on the moon.
Polo on the moon.
Yeah. I mean, the polo thing doesn't resonate with a lot of people. It's not.
No, it's just not true. There's no way somebody decided, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to protect my watch in 1920s India playing polo by turning it around, because then it's going to be protected because there's no danger of a polo mallet or ball hitting the back of this watch and still completely destroying the thing. But
I feel like back then people still had relatives that were in cavalry, and today we're so far removed from anyone we know ever being in the cavalry unit that we just can't appreciate being on a horse hitting things with a stick.
You mean cavalry?
Cavalry.
Cavalry.
Sorry, it's not a word I'm saying on a frequent basis.
That's a religious issue.
Sorry, cavalry, the mounted, mounted soldiers on horses.
Mounted soldiers.
I've always thought it was true. It always rang pretty true to me with but
that's where the best lies come from.
Rick, of all the crazy stuff that the watch industry claims that they're watching, this is the one you're gonna plant your heels in and be like, "There's no way I believe guys were playing polo with watches."
I'm a JLC denier. That's it, flat earther and JLC denier. What's the Cartier that you can actually use as a fidget spinner that does the kind of 180 degree? Remember those little games you used to get as kids where you push the bottom and the little man would do a circuit as if it was an
Yeah, Cartier has one of those. I know what you're talking
about. What's that called? That flips the other way.
It's got some ridiculous name.
That's your real fidget spinner. But anyway, Matt, are you there? I can't see you on my screen.
I am.
But you still be present.
Sorry about the video issue. I think that I voted maybe. They're very nice. I like that they're thinner. I think that's one of they're a little slimmed down and a little bit more svelte, which I think was a good move, and I think it's a very underappreciated complication, thinness. It's classic Jaeger-LeCoultre to be very thin, so I'm glad they're going that direction. Especially the Tourbillon is just over 9.5 millimeters thick. That's pretty crazy. So I think they're kind of boring, and I think they look very plain on the wrist.
Good. And hands up, anyone that owns one. Anyone own a JLC Reverso? Nope. I rest my case on the most desirable watch that nobody buys. Right. Let's stop sharing that particular screen. And I wasn't here last week, so I felt I missed out. So we're going back in time because I want to hear everyone's actual hit miss maybe thoughts on this. The Omega Seamaster Regatta
again
cut watch. Yeah, this we need to talk about this. We trailed this. I think it was you that came up with it. This was the best G-Shock that Omega make.
Yeah, people like that statement.
Yeah, they did. It is. I don't know whether this is badged as being a 46mm watch. But in every image I've seen it, unless the wrist of the guy that this is on is absolutely, unless he's 7'3", for some reason this doesn't look like it's actually 46mm. I think my Panerai would look bigger on this guy's wrist. If you look at the images, it doesn't look like a 46mm, but it has lots of functions, lots of buttons, lots of things to fidget with, and the kind of manual that was probably the equivalent of what they needed to actually get to the moon, the kind of thing that Apollo 13 astronauts probably worked through to try and figure out how to get back, is now needed just to power this watch.
Oh no, the watch's manual is way longer, way longer to fix. Yeah. I mean, you got to figure 1960s tech. No, this thing, it's way more complex and convoluted.
Yes. So is it a hit? Is it a miss? Or is it a maybe? 1, 2, 3, go. Hit. 2 misses. Matt, you're just going to need to shout.
It's a hit.
It's a hit. Well, I think it's a hit. It's just uber cool. I probably should deduct some points for 50-meter water resistance because that does seem entirely pointless.
It's for regattas. Are you gonna be like, if you're in the water, your regatta is already gone sideways. If you're under the water, it's really bad. If you're more than 50 meters under the water during the regatta, you are dead. They've sent a rescue team to get your body.
Do you think they're more concerned about rescuing you or rescuing your watch?
The watch.
The watch, yeah, probably. Ripley, how'd you vote?
I said it's a hit. I mean, I said it on, I think, the last episode. It is profoundly ugly, and there's no way around that, but it's also very cool. And I love that Omega, despite being very much a luxury brand who kind of chases the traditional image of luxury, that they still make these ridiculous things in like the X33 and adjacent lines that are very much modern tool watches made for either Mars stuff or like regattas or astronaut things. But like the Mars timer is a perfect example of just like a watch that like literally no one needs those functions, but they make it because they should, and they should still keep, you know, we talk about innovation. Here you go. Omega's doing something innovative in terms of, you know, this isn't a chronograph with like a different hand to do a countdown thing. This is a very much a digital watch that still kind of lets you know that there's a pulse over there on them making function forward devices. And 50 meters is fine for a watch that's meant to be used on top of a boat, not under a boat.
Ariel, do you agree?
I grew up in the era of Anadigi watches, mostly the Japanese ones. And so for whatever reason, I'm always going to be connected to these timepieces. Obviously, it was the Japanese companies that got me excited about it, but Omega has been making its share of Anadigi watches for a long time, sort of the X33s being the most famous among them. And I just am romanced by this idea of this sort of traditional aesthetic means modern functionality. This watch has, you know, all the issues we talked about. Might be a weird size. Why exactly need it? Not the prettiest thing. But I think I like the idea of it, maybe is more so than I like the thing itself. It's going to be a cool watch to wear. It's going to be relatively reliable. So I just think that it's fun. I like that that Omega is doing that. And I think it's, in terms of an aspirational watch, for me, that really fits into that. I imagine all these, you know, professional things I'll never do, but I like having the instrument of it. You know, some people have their dive watch version of that or their driving watch version of that. For me, this just fits into my sort of generational weakness.
Yeah, I think if I was going to become an actual geek watch collector and own more than a Panerai, I think I'd probably go down the Digiana route, because I'm of that vintage as well, whereby that was just the coolest things you could get when I was a kid was Anadigi watches. I've got the old Citizen robot watch somewhere. I think I've got about 3 of them. And yeah, I think the Breitling equivalence is probably where my watch collecting heart is. Kevin, where's your heart for this watch? Hey, Kevin Hart. You're always tippy waitress.
I'm not as funny as him, unfortunately.
Neither am I, as is obviously proved.
I gave this a big fat mess. I'm sorry. I'm of the era of any digital watches as well. I've got an X33. That is just, it's disgusting. I'm sorry. I don't know what they're on in Switzerland to come out with a watch like that. I just don't comprehend it. I love the X33. They're an amazing range. This, you can't tell the time. Oh no. I don't know what planet it's from. It's just, it's too big. 50 meters resistant. I mean, this G-Shock is 200 meters. Come on, Omega, get at least to 100, if not 200, if you're going to do a watch which is supposed to be for the America's Cup. It's just ugly. The only good thing is the shade of blue. That's it.
It's got a moon phase. Who doesn't need a moon phase on an
What's that got
Anadigi
to
watch?
do with sailing? Come on.
Tides.
But
Tides.
there's a genie
But
bottle on
the-
the back, so if you rub it, it grants you a wish.
Oh, well, the wish would be to get rid of that range. Come on.
Whatever
Seamaster
whatever you wish,
Regatta.
sir.
That's
Guy,
a
what do
genie
you think?
bottle. I thought that was a hookah. Okay.
Rub it, see what happens.
Yes.
Maybe it'll
That's-
just beep a
that's-
few times.
Yeah, Yeah, that's where the Seiko design team are inevitably headed. Guy?
So I just bought a new Annie Digi watch. I bought the Garmin Instinct Annie Digi watch, and I'm a fan of Annie Digi watches in general. I'm also quite liked the other the Seamaster one with the America's Cup on the second hand. I thought that was a very nice bit of subtle design. I am going to quote Kevin here and go, "This is disgusting." It's just horrible. It's just horrible. It's badly designed. It looks awful. And I disagree with Ripley. Like, what happens if you win the race and you jump into the water at the end to celebrate and you've lost your watch? It's not lucky.
Are you going to the bottom of the harbor? It's 50 meters. That's still enough. You know, you're fine.
Yeah, but we all know what 50 meters means in a watch, and 50 meters means
we get used to
spill a drink on it.
Yeah.
No, we get used to 50 meters on the context of a manual wind watch, where every single day we're turning that crown and putting a bunch of wear on a gasket. This being like push button operated, I would take a 50-meter Timex, go do your daily stuff in it, and if you manage to flood it, I will be impressed.
You know, speaking of Garmin, it's interesting. The latest Garmin watch I was reviewing, on the back of it, it says water resistance 100 meters, but diving to 40 meters. Like, now they're just having both on there.
So wait, if I'm not diving, I can take it to 100, but if I'm diving,
if you hold your breath, it can go to 100.
Yeah,
I just thought it was funny. It actually had to say both on the back.
Matt, from your darkness, would this watch give you light?
Yeah, so I gave it a hit, and let's be clear, a G-Shock is better than this watch, but I think we complain a lot about lack of risk-taking amongst the big names in watches, and this is a very fugly watch, and it's a very risky watch, and so I applaud them for that. I like the red accents, but what really won me over was that it has an inertial sensor unit, and I don't know what that is, but, but I need that. I need that in my life.
So
more
we
sensors.
are adding an inertial sensor unit, and just because we've been talking about Breitling, it's also going to be friction resistant to watch complications that we have no idea what they mean. So that's good. Excellent. Right, our final hit miss maybe today. We've done fugly. As I've said, I think we might continue in this trait with the latest from Audemars Piguet, who appear to have completely lost their marbles and released the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Concept Split Seconds Chronograph GMT large date watch in forged carbon. The question is the forged carbon going to be the saving grace of this watch, or is it already a step too far? So very quickly, judge this book by its cover. Is this a hit, a miss, or a maybe? 1, 2, 3, go. Miss, maybes, miss, and a maybe from Matt. I bizarrely think this is a miss because under the old management at AP, this would have come with a Marvel character on it. And clearly they've just fallen in love with that concept with the new management and just released the watch. It doesn't hold together for me as being, it's kind of like, it's almost like majorly quirky, like the Spider-Man and the Black Panther, but it's just like not being brave enough to do that thing. I mean, I would have disliked it either way, this one, or if they put a Marvel character on it, but it just feels like this is almost like them stepping back slightly. It's just a bit weird. Ripley, what do you think?
Well, the guy who was going to carve the tiny Iron Man figure was sick that week, so they couldn't do it, and they launched it without. I mean, I said maybe. I mean, it's a Royal Oak, but it's not a boring one. We've kind of reached this interesting point in the watch industry where, like, the homage brands like Invicta were making their version of APs, and then AP starts now making something that I'm pretty sure debuted in Invicta's catalog like 4 years ago. So, you know, it's not a good looking watch. I like that the carbon fiber glows. It's you know, it's these are huge. Anyone who's seen like the concept pieces in person, they're enormous. I really just can't wear one. It's not even like big watch on my arm. Just the curvature required to touch its case back isn't my wrist. But you know, it's a maybe. You could do a lot worse and just get a really, really boring Royal Oak. But you could also just get a regular Royal Oak and it would be much prettier. Like, I don't think anyone's looking at this and going, yeah, what a looker.
Ariel, should they drop the concept of the concept? Because it's not a concept watch. The idea of concept watch is something you're never actually going to make. The thing is, they actually make it and they still call it a concept.
I mean, it is a concept. We're sitting here chatting about. We can't figure it out. That sounds like a concept to me.
True. How'd you vote?
I voted maybe on this. I mean, look, the thing is, I think we all agree this watch is missing its mascot. It's like we want to know what they had in mind. Like, who's supposed to wear this? Like, it's not quite macho enough without that. It's not quite weird enough without that. It's got like a very standard dial and set of complications. It's trying to channel, like, I don't know, their inner Richard Mille with this, you know, the glow in the dark element. You know, Audemars Piguet introduced forged carbon, so I get that they're trying to like take it a step further, but I'm not sure if it's as fresh anymore as it used to be, because now you can get this look in very inexpensive watches. It doesn't have any prominent animations on the dial, right? So the movement, which is an automatic split-second chronograph, yeah, that's all great and all, but like it's not viscerally as exciting as like a minute repeater or a tourbillon with like lots of little moving things. So it sort of like melds a lot of practicality with total impracticality, and it doesn't have an overt theme. Yeah, maybe it doesn't need like a superhero mascot, but it needs like some person. I think Audemars Piguet, when they had like the Arnold Schwarzenegger stuff and the Terminator stuff, that's better because like we could imagine this character, both Arnold and the Terminator character, like wearing this type of thing. This watch just seems to be missing that and needs it at this $200,000 nut price point.
Kevin?
I voted this a hit. I'm glad it doesn't have a superhero character like Supergirl or the Hulk on it, but visually, I think it's a stunning piece. I love the luminescence in the carbon. I'm glad they've done something slightly different instead of going down Aberdeen titanium or calling it carbon tech or whatever the thing they're calling things now. It's a stunning piece. Granted, it's a little bit too thick and not everybody can wear it, but it's a beautiful piece. This is where technology and design should be going up compared to the Omega one we just saw, which is fugly, totally fugly. This is, I know it's not to everybody's taste, but at least it's different enough and design enough to make it interesting. Love the shape, love the carbon, love the fluorescence. It's just a gorgeous piece. The only thing I'm not sure about is exactly that £200,000 or US dollars price tag. But if you've got the money, go buy it.
Guy, you selling everything you own to buy one of these?
Absolutely not. I mean, I just... it almost, to me, feels like sacrilegious of what they've done to the Royal Oak design. It's like, if you want to do a concept watch, do a concept watch, but it's like they've done a concept watch, got scared no one would know it was an AP, and stuck a Royal Oak bezel over the top of it just so everyone knows. It's like, if you're going to be daring, ditch the Royal Oak visuals and just be daring and do something new. It's just, everything, I think is horrible. I think everything is horrible. I don't understand why anyone would buy this instead of just buying a nice classic Royal Oak and be happy.
Could you turn one into a D-Trash watch?
I could turn one into a D. I mean, I could quite easily. I do like.
Would that be considered upcycling?
Well, it would be my way of getting. I do like the glowing carbon, and I would quite like a glowing carbon D-Trash, and I don't know how I can do that.
You do. You can transform it. Take some parts out.
I can transform it.
Yeah. If you spend $200,000 and reverse engineer it from this is my advice, because that's something.
I reverse engineer it, and just have a random D-Trash.
I like you just actually taking the pieces off of this and sticking them on yours. Just like cloud.
And I could just have one what has a Royal Oak bezel on it. Just randomly has a carbon.
Yeah, they don't own that design anymore. I mean, look at my shirt.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, there was that JLC last week, which was £1 million, which David believes will effectively.
You mean the Westminster?
The Westminster, that's right, the Westminster.
The name we'll never forget.
You know, if you were to buy that, it's got over 1,000 bits in it. So, you know, if you were to produce 1,000 D-Trash watches, each with a little bit from the JLC Westminster, you know, that would be, that's, you know, a bit like Bremen. You know, maybe that's where they've gone wrong. Yeah. That what they should be doing is rather than putting bits of the Ark Royal in the back or Stephen Hawking's desk or whatever it was, they should just be putting in bits of other people's watches. Here's
I'm trying to do the
math. Elvis wore.
Our watch is about, I'm trying to think, so it is about 1% of the cost of this. So no, it's more, it's less than that. So they could have like get 1% of a watch with 1% of an AP for 1% of the cost.
Yeah,
you know, that could somehow work.
It's the ultimate pyramid scheme, only the pyramid's the wrong way round. Matt, what did you think of this?
Yeah, I gave it a maybe. You know, it's a watch that's designed to show that
it's
you're a wealthy person.
Definitely a watch.
It shows that you're wealthy, but in a relatively classy way for one of these. I think the loom is cool.
I think, Matt, can I just confirm we can't see you? Are you able to see the screen? Just check. You're looking at the same watch that we were looking at. Right, okay.
I feel like Matt said a few sentences, and then like the end of the sentences has like it's a watch. Stop. The rest of it
is it makes you look wealthy? That's what I want to think.
Yes.
It's Matt AI.
It's a watch that makes you look wealthy. That's what it does.
Remember, the person that has this watch also has to have the little UV torch in their pocket to sort of show off the glow all the time. So you become that person with this timepiece on.
Yeah, that's
it's the guy who owns a nightclub and he just lives in his establishment and he's perpetually bathed in the light. Yeah.
Okay. That's where we should put the Seiko design team in a blacklit nightclub. From earlier on in the show.
A classy way.
They've already been suffering from not having enough windows, okay?
Is Spearmint Rhino still a thing in London, Kevin? Is that still a nightclub?
Oh, God, now we're combining this.
Oh, God, we've got those out here, Rick. Rick, it's amazing that half of the things, it's amazing half of the things you mentioned, I have no point of reference, ice cream wars or what have you, but no, we seem to have, I drive by plenty of spearmint rhinoceroses on the way home.
Hey,
you know, now that I think about it, this would be great with the Seiko design team. They'll have fun, and we'll have more graceful forms in our timepieces.
And there's the callback. It's rhinos all the way down on this show.
Spearmint rhinos.
We started at rhinos. We finished at rhinos. There we go. Grand. Well, Matt,
I kind of want to go back. Matt, what do you mean this is a what do you mean this is a classy way of showing this has all the class of like a sleeveless tuxedo? Like, well, how is this a classy way of showing you wealth?
I think it's relatively subdued for that class of people.
Relative
like a metallic purple Lamborghini.
But okay, really quick, while the internet seems to be working, there's a Pokeball at 3:00. So that's a pretty attractive option.
At 3:00. All right. Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, not being entirely familiar with the Pokemon universe, but that does ring a bell. Yeah. Okay. So that's what we're saying is that's the redeeming feature.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So do we think this was originally supposed to be a Pokemon watch? That was the element that was going to go. It wasn't going to be Iron Man. It was going to be Pikachu. That was going to look at me and my cultural references. That was going to be on this watch. Is that what we think?
What? Sorry, what is that? An AM PM thing, or what? Actually, is that? What is it? What does it do?
I assume so.
It's not on any of the other subdials.
Why isn't it red and white?
Why isn't red and white? But is that a Pokemon?
Well,
yeah,
it's
Pokeball supposed to be
Super Ball. It's not a normal Pokeball.
Oh right, this is a concept series. How foolish of me.
Okay, children.
We're doing all of Audemars Piguet's marketing work for them, aren't we?
Really not.
I want to know if their meetings are any better than ours. They're being like, guys, why did we design a Pokeball in there? Should we lead into this?
That's Dear. Right, well, that is us for the main show. If you would like to get a little bit more extra time, goodness knows where this conversation is going to go when we press stop on the main recording, then you can go to aBlogtoWatch Weekly Live to find out all about it. You can also contact us on podcast at aBlogtoWatch.com. And as promised, and be prepared to be deafened, we now have bagpipe music for me to read the WhatsApp message to. So I have no idea how well it's going to work. We'll maybe play out on this rather than the usual theme tune, but here we go. Here is your bagpipes. There we go. The drones of the bagpipes in the hills. And the message is that the WhatsApp number is +44 7386 690 897. And I'm sure that out of tune bagpipes made that so much more worth doing. Enjoy. There we go. That's our show, folks.
Folks, Rick is also available for eulogies at
available for weddings, funerals, and bar mitzvahs worldwide.
That was very professional, so thank you.
Do you think that worked? I think that worked in a not at all sense. But we'll bring that back next week. Anyway, from all of us, cheerio. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
And you now join us if you're still hanging on. Joseph appears to be hanging on in the chat. He appears to be the one who seems to have scared everybody else off with the bagpipes. But there we go. I thought my AI bagpipes were quite good. I thought that was quite a good find.
It does sound a bit as though someone passed away, I have to say.
I thought the number was going to be integrated into it. I didn't think you would just be speaking over it.
I didn't have any choice. It's a low grade technology here. I'm trying. Look, here's the bagpipes. Maybe our whole show.
It's not you. It's just we've all been trained that if there's bagpipes in the background, somebody has to have died.
So what we really need is the Seiko design team in Spearmint Rhino listening to bagpipe music.
Can they sound more hip at all or uplifting? Is there any way of adjusting the notes on that?
Is this a tune? Or is this them tuning it up? Or is this like actually playing a song?
No, this is literally AI bagpipes. I will send you the link in the chat later on.
No, you're okay, thanks.
You can produce your own bagpipe music.
Is there just one song bagpipes can play?
Hey, we come from a Scotland, from a country called Scotland, where our national anthem is played on bagpipes, but the national anthem has a note in it that's too high from the highest note a bagpipe can actually play. So our actual national anthem has to be played out of tune because the bagpipes can't hit the top note in the song. That's the country I exist in, folks. Anyway, there we go. Right. Anyway, right, let's end this show in totality. For those that are tuned in on the live show, thank you for joining us.
We just sent off the Royalo concept into the night on a flaming raft. You realize that, right?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. I like that we should have. Oh, you know the watch we didn't talk about, which I meant to talk about this week, the Trump watch. We need to leave.
We should do. Let's do. We could do that now as a bonus. We could do that as bonus extra.
Okay. Well, we need to find it. Bonus extra. What was it? BuyTrumpWatches.com or something.
And I know some of the background story here.
Yeah. Well, I wonder maybe we should save it for next week.
Someone who's trying to fleece a load of money out of his supporters. Is that the background?
Yes, it's the epitome of buying low and selling as high as you possibly can.
With the Seiko design team involved in any way, shape, or form. Maybe that's what we put them at a Trump rally and see what they come up with. Seiko design team in Spearmint Rhino with Donald Trump while bagpipe music is playing. I'm asking ChatGPT to create that.
I will put money that Donald Trump does go to Spearmint Rhino quite often.
I think that was called January 6th in the United States.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll do Trump Watch next week. We'll maybe spend the whole show doing it. Get everybody on early.
There's a lot to say on that.
Good stuff. Right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us in the live chat.
There's no rush. None of the people backing it are ever going to receive it until long after the election anyways.
Oh, dear. Right. Well, that's us. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.